Welcome, everyone. Please stand for the Pledge of Allegiance. Pledge allegiance
to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Additions to the agenda.
Mr. Chairman, I move that we add the town clerk to the agenda under department and committee reports to discuss personnel.
Is there a second? Okay. All those in favor of adding the town clerk under department and committee reports in the executive session, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Anybody else have any additions? Okay. I have no remarks. We don't have any guests tonight that are speaking. Does anybody have any comments regarding non-agenda items? Seeing none, we move on. We are going to go, and I'm sorry to do this to everyone, but I promise this should be fairly quick. We're going to go right into that executive session with our town clerk. So Sandy, if you can.
Mr. Chairman,
Here's your cheat sheet. Here it is.
okay. I'll make the motion that we go into executive session for appointment or employment of evaluation of a public officer and employee, 1 VSA 3133A3.
Second.
Thank you.
All those in-
That's it.
Did you say the town administrator?
Oh, I'm sorry, I moved the town administrator.
You can kick me out if you want.
Not you.
Okay, we went into executive session at 6:38 PM. Out of executive session at 6:49, no action was taken. We move on to the highway department. Mr. Walker, fuel bids.
Oh, yeah. On you tonight.
How you doing?
Pretty good.
Good.
You gonna wanna split it all up, or you wanna go with one this year?
We split it all up last year, didn't we? Did that work out for us? Because I knew there was one thing that it was kind of price, it was a price variance on it, and we kind of rolled the dice a little bit, but did we come out ahead on that? Do you think?
We made out all right last year.
Good.
But with everything as close as they are this year, I was wondering if you'd just like to stick with Barrows and Fisher for the rack price and the prepay of $201.
What's rack price mean
When they pick it up, it's whatever it is that day.
that day?
And add the 25. And the winter blend for diesel is actually still cut from barrels with kerosene.
Is that a good thing or not a good thing? It is.
The rest of them are using a chemical. That's why it's a little bit more.
Why does A.R. Sanders include tax?
I don't know why they included that this year. For sure.
Because that's what we did last year. We didn't go with rack, we went with,
Yeah, that was set price last year on the diesel.
yeah, we were set price. I mean,
Mr. Chairman, I move that we go with our road commissioner's recommendation for Barrows and Fisher Oil Company.
Second.
discussion.
So, according to historical usage, because we don't, I mean, we've got some prices in front of us, but
Yep.
not really, I mean,
For the heating?
well, I mean, you know, some of them are a little lower for barrels, some are a little higher, but according to what our historical usage is, the bottom figure, they come out better than,
If we can
Let's do
hang
it.
right in there.
okay,
Yeah.
all right.
So
Well, that-
Barrows and Fisher, but which prepay and rack price
I'd do rack price.
or fixed?
We
Steve?
did,
I think that's a good idea too, the rack price. I did notice here on the second page that apparently the Dead River thing is out of running anyway because it's required a May 31st
yeah, fixed price.
acceptance.
Sandy? You, okay. You need any questions? So we got a motion, we got a second. All those in favor of utilizing Barrows and Fisher at the prepay and rack prices as outlined by the road commissioner, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Those opposed? Easy enough. Relining Culvert on Governor Hunt Road.
Yep, I've got 2 proposals. There's not many people that do it. Joseph S. Ray out of Sheldon Falls, 87.5. Actually, I didn't have copies for you guys.
I was gonna say, I didn't know if it was behind that other stuff or what.
I
Okay.
thought of that.
You
On the
probably-
way here.
You probably thought our memories were so good. I remember
Talking
exactly
about
what you
Huckle
said.
Hill, oh, prepaying all.
87.5 for Ray,
This is the
and through EJP, using a local contractor, $95,065.15.
Who have you used before in the past?
We've never done this before.
Never done this particular, okay.
No,
How do you reline a culvert?
they're gonna slide another one inside, plastic one, and put grout around it.
Oh, so
Steve,
the
you got any
one
questions?
There is failing?
The only question I have is, that technology is a good one to use, is it not gonna fail?
On this culvert,
It's a good one to use?
it's the one right down by the hydro dam.
I know where that is, yeah.
Yeah, it's
It's the one that-
it's 265 feet long.
Now, this isn't the one that Cold Brook runs through?
No, it's the one, it's the runoff.
From,
Of the
from up the
fields.
hill, and
Yep.
then, all right, I
Yeah,
got
just
you.
before the bullpen.
That is a long one. I
All the way
remember-
through the,
I remember where
fish
that
ladder.
is, yes. Wow, okay.
that's why to do it, this would be the,
Yes.
for us, the, right now, cheapest way.
Okay.
The only question I'd have is, do you have some, I don't have anything to look at here, so do you have recommendations on which one you think would be a good idea and why?
Ray, that's what they've been doing right along,
Yes,
and he has the actual equipment to pull this stuff through.
I see.
The other one using the contractor, EJP, they're gonna use a contractor, but try to push it through with excavators.
Okay.
And you can have joint failures.
Right, I understand what you're saying now.
We have some personal experience with JS Ray, and they've done a great job for us. We've had some things at the farm that they've done some work for.
And that's where I was gonna try to go with lower down high.
Jeff, you got any questions? Cindy?
I move that we recommend the acceptance of the Ray bid
Yep.
for the $87,500 to install 264 feet of snap-tight 42-inch pipe inside existing 48-inch culvert and grout. That thing is 48 inches? Wow. Don't put that in the motion. I just didn't realize it was 48
Second.
inches.
Yep.
Okay. Got a motion and a second. Do you have any more discussion?
That's big.
Okay. All those in favor of awarding the culvert bid to Joseph Ray for the amount of $87,500, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Those opposed? You got anything else for us while you're up here?
And that's it.
Alright. Approval of the meeting minutes from May 16th.
Mr. Chairman, I move we accept the minutes as written.
Second.
Any discussion? Anybody see anything that needs to be changed? I think they're good. Okay. Seeing none, all those in favor of accepting the minutes from May 16th Select Board meeting as written, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? Approved. Mr. Clerk.
Yes, Mr. Chairman, I move the select board approve the payment of the following warrants and invoices, 4 of them this time. Payroll in the amount of $8,995.60. That's payroll 20S. Payroll 21S in the amount of $8,889.45. And finally, payroll 22S in the amount of $8,103.30. And finally, accounts payable 23T in the amount of $38,230.35.
Thank you. All of those in favor of, passing warrant 23T, accounts payable $38,230.35, 20S payroll $8,995.60, 21S payroll $8,889.45, 22S payroll $8,103.30. Please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? Okay, we move on. Hemlock Road. Mr. and Miss Morrison, come on up.
We submitted a request, a written request.
Yes.
Has everyone had an opportunity to look at that? So basically, what we're looking for is the board approval from the board and also David Walker, the road commissioner, for a 2-foot reduction in the width of the finished surface. We're talking the asphalt from 20 to 18 feet. We didn't realize this earlier, but we found out that Vermont Roadworks has a paver that's 18 feet wide, which can eliminate the center seam, which will result in a longer lasting performance of the surface of the road. And it would benefit us also. We have a map here, we're kind of tight on the lower part. I think 20 feet might get in there, but I'm not sure.
You're talking by the Circle Drive end or from the entrance? end?
No, just that's another thing. Did anyone bother to go up, look at? Have you?
I actually went and looked.
You did?
I drove. It's a nice road.
Yeah, it's pretty well packed.
Yeah.
But he is gonna add to the grade. He's talking hard pack. And he's actually talking about setting that with a older paver to get the crown and everything. And if you have been up, whoever has, you've noticed this long stretch right here. It's about 14 feet wide where it's being traveled.
Is it just a couple houses?
You know, yeah, 2 houses here, Strongs are here, and this is the one vacant lot remaining up there. So right now, there's 11 homes, but there will be 12. There is more acreage up here, but it doesn't lend itself to anything like this happening again. It's the mountainside, you know, 1, 2 houses, whatever.
There's not really any potential to lengthen the road or add more residences. What it is what it's.
Dead end.
Yeah.
Dead end.
I mean,
yeah.
somebody might try to put something up on the side of the mountain.
A
It's
home.
40 acres up there.
But that's-
that's a driveway, I mean, that's a right of way, that's not.
That's a driveway off the cul-de-sac
Right.
at the
Right,
end.
right.
Right.
Steep.
So just so everybody has a clear understanding, the page 2 of this thing that's got all the pink highlights on it is the town's adopted policy on the road width. Road to be a minimum of 20 feet wide with 2-foot shoulder for a rural local road. Based on Vermont standard design, blah, 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 blah. But Vermont standard design is 18 feet.
Well, that's,
So,
yeah,
but that's our,
Based on the chart that this list of general requirements that was adopted 17 years ago, you know, general requirement number 2, based upon Vermont State Design Standards, 1997, table 6.3, which you've provided, and essentially it depends upon traffic volume and speed,
Right.
determines what the suggested guidelines were for the width of the road.
right.
Which, again, according to the chart, according to the volume of traffic, is 18 feet was the recommended, according to the state, according to the chart. So I'm not really sure what the history is behind the guidelines. But there's 14 general requirements, or 13. Does your road meet everything else that's required by the list?
Yes. 2 years ago, I didn't, I met with Dave and he wanted the culverts replaced and that was done.
Yep.
And then we let a year go by just for the gravel, over the culverts to settle out.
But when it was built the width it needed to be and the amount of gravel it needed to be. It was all built to finish, but then we just never could finish it with asphalt.
Dave, come on up.
Just so you know, that Vermont standard is just a minimum requirement. 2 years ago, we already met with the board, and they had the agreement of 20 feet. That's why I can't change it, it's gonna be up to you guys. But our 1 ton is 8.6 wide. Just keep that in mind. And any of the pickups with the wider mirrors.
So that's under 9 feet, though.
And we're gonna be running right on the edge if you need to. And that's the problem on like Sac Road, they're complaining about 2 fire trucks meeting. You could have the same thing again.
So your recommendation is what?
I would stick with the 20.
And as far as you're aware as well, that all these 14 different requirements for that road have been met with the exception of that 20-foot.
Yep. And
Okay.
Jerry told me that he did do the ditch. I haven't been up to see it in the last 3 weeks, but.
Well, for that, I'd like to respond.
Sure. Absolutely.
Lily Pond Road,
Yes, sir.
at the entrance is 20, and then at the last new house, it's 17, so it's probably 18 in front of your house. Wheeler Road, 17 to 18 feet, hardly any shoulders. Hickory Hollow Road, nice road, familiar with it? 15 feet. So, there are roads in town, and that's just around where we are. I don't know, I could find some other roads probably, but. Go ahead.
We don't have the width to put in the town requirement. That's why like Sac Road, we're working on trying to get property. Wheeler Road, same thing. We don't own enough property to put it in.
To make it the 20 feet
Right.
that, yep. But
That's
I guess
why as we've been doing these,
to,
we're supposed to be, like we did with Franklin Road, go through and try to.
I guess to Jerry's point though, is that we're dealing
Yeah,
with
I'm just
those,
bringing out,
dealing with those situations, with those roads, with plows and, cars meeting each other and that kind of thing. Other places, so it's not impossible to do it here. Steve?
I don't have any issues with accepting the state limit of 18 feet for this particular project. I don't think it's a heavily traveled road, and certainly there are other examples in town where people are doing quite nicely with what they've got. That's my position at this point.
No, I agree. I mean, I'm assuming that the Vermont State Design Standards were not updated after, well, it's been 20 years. And we've already got examples of town roads that are less than optimum width. So, I don't know, I guess I would lean towards, if that's what the state design standards were, then, and I assume it's a significant cost savings to you folks, so.
Well, and further down the road, you know, to the
Replace it.
taxpayers, I mean, Vernon cannot keep building things like the plant's still open. It isn't.
I think certainly when the
You know,
20
it's
feet was put in, we were
Yeah.
in the mode of another 30 years
excessiveness
of
has got to.
operation.
Send it back to you. Yeah. Sandy?
I've been on the road and I think the 18 would be okay.
Jean?
I agree, I mean, there's plenty of shoulder, it seems, for anything. It's very spacious, nice road, and 18 seems fine.
Yeah, that's a good point, that there is
There-
the shoulder.
there's huge
being
They're still
gonna
on
be
the
there.
asphalt.
And
yeah.
there's some you drive, I mean, I noticed driving now, and the white line is right on the edge of the pavement, and there's no shoulder on a lot of roads in Vernon, and
Mhm.
that certainly won't be the case there. There, it's very spacious, I think, so.
Dave?
Yeah, I just wanted to point out that the requirement used to be 26 of pavement and 2-foot shoulders, and there's actually one development that the town, when they put it in, the town made them go to 26, and it's only 5 houses.
Yeah, and that was outrageous.
This is a
You
new
know.
day.
Well, I'm just,
No, it's true, but it's like, if that were to happen, and that's the way that road got built up there. I mean, when I built it, it was 30 feet, shoulder to shoulder, to provide for 26 feet. The equipment went away, and the road commissioner notified me it was 29 feet, 6 inches in 2 spots. All right? So I called the rock back with his grader and equipment, because you don't just go up there with a shovel and that, you know. And, but the other thing you should know is Huckle Hill Road is 22 feet. And that was a requirement back then, which was foolish, to make
The
that
26.
dead-end road
26 is.
26 feet wide to serve, all that road's built for is for those property owners to get in and out to their house. That's not a through road
Right.
for, you know. I mean, granted, UPS may go in there once in a while, and FedEx, and, you know, but if those people were here tonight, the residents, they would tell you they very seldom meet another car going in and out of there. And if you have been up and you've seen the lower part of this road, it's about 14 feet and it's grass. You know, 6 feet of
Further in,
shoulders.
yeah.
Yeah.
Dave, what's your biggest concerns with the 18 feet?
it's just gonna be when we're plowing it, going down through.
Having enough to wing back, you mean, or? Okay.
But if they've
Our
got.
plows are exactly 9 foot on the big trucks, that's what we're cutting.
Yep. How do you deal with the roads that are currently undersized?
We cut way over.
Okay. Feasible in this situation? Okay.
Mr. Chairman, I move that we approve Jerry and Sandy Morrison's request.
Second.
Got a motion and a second. Any further discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor of approving the Morrison request of 18 foot for Hemlock Road, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? There we go.
Thank you very much. We'll move forward.
You're done.
All right, RFP for town attorney
Relax.
for this upcoming year. Basically, what we're, have been doing is putting out to bid a lot of the town services because we've had the same people for many, many years who have served us well, no doubt. But we've, looking for cost efficiencies, maybe looking for an improvement in the service that we receive. Doing it in the same vein with our town attorney. So that's the discussion tonight, whether we would like to put that out. I know for myself, the current firm that we utilize is not quick to respond when we need them, which is unfortunate. And that has been my biggest issue with them thus far. What's everybody think about putting this out? Steve?
I think, given the amount of money we're talking about, it's probably a good idea. And certainly the issue, I wasn't aware that we're having response time problems, but that pushes.
Been that way for as long as I've been on the board, unfortunately.
Pushes, I don't have any contact directly
Yeah.
with them, so only the chair would be in that position. But certainly we need to make sure that we get it as rapid a response as possible, and some of these issues are very time dependent. So I would agree with that.
Jeff?
I think we should. And, you mentioned since the time you've been on the board, I was on the board before you, and I have to imagine that currently there's less calls for service than there were prior. And those prior calls were taken care of expeditiously. So I think it's a good idea.
Same. Jim? So, make a motion to that effect.
Mr. Chairman, I move we put the RFP for town attorney out.
Second.
A motion and a second. Do we have any more discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor of putting an RFP out for town attorney for the upcoming year, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? All right. I think we're gonna skip to the old business, we're gonna skip the personnel, that's next on the list and go right to old business, if everybody's okay with that, because I know we have a few people here waiting to talk about some of the things that are on the old business. Everybody good with that?
Fine.
Okay. Contract for law enforcement services, we had an amendment that we put out to the Wyndham County Sheriff. And what was his response?
Well,
He submitted an alternative
an
amendment
alternative, right, an alternative.
that I
fact.
included in.
I think that seems reasonable for quarterly. I know that monthly is gonna make,
Well,
it takes time for them to do the work they have to do in terms of
if I might,
investigating.
because I'm the one that suggested the initial language.
Yeah.
I've had some experience in law enforcement, it was many years ago, but I've also followed law enforcement since then, and I know these folks keep track of what they're doing. One of the only ways that we have now as a select board here is to get reports from these people. We can't ask questions. Our contract bars us from doing anything that might be considered interfering with their approach to law enforcement. Therefore, I think having a contract that says on a periodic basis you'll report some, not just raw statistics, but some metrics as to how is our money, what kind of service are we getting for the money that we're spending? And we're spending a lot of money with these people. And I don't see a problem with monthly, especially if, you keep in mind that, well, if it gets to be too much data, then we can always back off on it. But my opinion is that they need to provide us with more, they need to provide us with some assessment as to how they're doing. We have no way to assess that. They don't report anything to us currently in terms of solved crimes or increases or decreases in the types of crimes we're having. We have to go back ourselves and look at that. And they do keep track of all that stuff because it's part of how they end up getting funded through the various ways that they get funded. I wish someone had been here from law enforcement tonight, but I do think that it's incumbent upon us as select board members to recognize that we need to spend the townspeople's money wisely and to understand what we're getting for our dollar.
So, I thought that they were given regular reports. I mean, I remember being
The
in
reports I'm talking
meetings
about are not talking, I'm not talking about a list of things with 2 dog calls, 3 burglaries, this. I'm talking about something that tells you we had 3 burglaries and 2 of them were solved. 1 of them is still hanging out there. I'm talking about metrics. I'm not talking about how many times they stopped cars, but you know, did they issue, I mean, in other words, what the rates are. We don't know anything about that right now. Unless you've got some report that I don't have.
No.
I didn't think so.
No.
And those statistics are available, but we need to, I think, as a select board, we need to see those, because we would expect no less from our own police department, and we're not getting them from this particular mode of, and we're not even, if you read the contract with the sheriff's department, we're not even allowed to ask any questions about that, because it may be seen as interfering or trying to, what's the language in the contract? Trying to, to influence their actions. I'm not asking them to provide us with stuff that isn't out there and you know, certainly on record. But I think that it would help us to understand what we're getting for our money, what the townspeople are getting for their money. And that's why I felt that the language I put out there initially and what he's provided as a backup is dilute.
Joe?
So I can understand the difference between what the original proposal was and what he's following up with.
Right.
Rather than on a monthly basis, I mean, he's saying that somebody from the office will show up and meet with the select board. But is it a difference between monthly? I mean, in other words, originally, you know, it doesn't say somebody's got to show up here and meet with the select board.
No, it doesn't.
Yeah, a report or
written
something.
report is quite fine.
Yeah.
Right.
Well-
And I still feel that, I would rather have something in writing. My experience with someone telling you something is a very easy thing to rescind later on. If you've got it in writing from an agency, then you've got something you can hang your hat on for that month or that period. You know, maybe the negotiated agreement would end up being every 2 months. I think quarterly is too thin. That doesn't really give us the time, and there may be things going on that we need to respond to. It was like this thing that we had back, wasn't it last summer? We had a string of burglaries, and we asked them to come in and talk to us about things that the residents could do to protect themselves, and you know, that kind of thing. We heard from them once. Have we heard anything more since then? At least not during the meetings I've attended, and I have yet to miss a select board meeting.
They caught some of the guys.
What's that?
They did get some of the guys,
Well, that's very nice. How do you know that?
because I stay connected, I guess.
Oh, you have sources that I don't then. See, that as a select board
Yeah,
member,
you can
I
get
would
the
like to be
emails
privy
and
to
stuff.
what?
You can get emails of their activities,
Yeah.
you know, and that's what it came out of. They published something.
The Chesterfield
Twitter or
police,
something?
no, the Chesterfield police caught
Oh, the
The-
Chesterfield police, all right.
the burglars
Right.
that corresponded to the Vernon
Well, that
burglaries
was
as
very
well.
nice, yeah. I did not know about that. But I do think that we should be getting some kind of summary for the money that we're spending on this
Oh, yeah.
contract.
I don't
That's my
think
feeling.
that the detail is an issue. I guess sometimes I wonder, do you want to be paying them to be preparing all these reports instead of being out
They
there
prepare,
or?
they prepare that information anyway. They have to, because they can't
Okay.
function as a sheriff's department if they don't have data upon which to write. I'm just saying that we, as the select board
Mhm.
here in Vernon, need to be in that loop. We're not, at least
Oh, I
I'm
agree
not.
with
You-
that.
You are, I guess, but I'm not.
No, I agree with that, I'm just wondering if it needs to be monthly, or if the quarterly, as they propose, is really enough.
Well, I don't know. In my opinion, I'd rather know about it more frequently, but maybe no one else does, in which case, we can modify the language to suit the majority.
Jeff, you got anything more?
But, you know,
Read the paper. It's in the paper.
Jeff, go ahead.
but what we ask for, I assume on a monthly basis, is this the same information that they're willing to offer on a quarterly basis? There's two different,
I don't think it is.
Okay.
From what I'm reading there, they're gonna come down and give us a little spiel.
Every 3
and I'm
months
not
on
sure that it's going
numbers
to be
and
as
not-
consistent as what I would like to see in writing from them myself.
Types
I mean,
in-
we're paying 200, isn't it, what's the bill this next year? It's $232,000,
Something like that.
all right? I mean, that's not chump change. It used to be in Vernon, but isn't anymore.
Only their single largest contract.
And we're their single largest contract. If they can't spend a little time putting some numbers on the paper, I don't understand that at all. The Brattleboro Police Department does that for the select board in Brattleboro. And
Every
the town
month?
manager. They do it as often as they're asked to.
Okay, well, I mean, it sounded like they were gonna do complete information, state and discuss the types and numbers of incidents reported during the quarter, outcomes of criminal complaints, arrests, open, closed, or other
Well,
motor vehicle complaints and crashes.
Yeah, and
I mean,
Gina, if you're satisfied with what they're doing, then I guess, you wouldn't be in favor of them doing any more. I personally
No,
feel
I am
that
in
I would like
favor.
to hear more.
I'm in favor of more information, I'm
Right.
just saying
Saying,
the frequency of it.
Yeah, I think the hangup here is.
I
is-
agree with more information, absolutely.
right.
The hangup is the time frame. It's not necessarily that nobody wants more or less information from the
Right.
sheriff's department. Is, can we accept quarterly? Or do we want to go back to the negotiation table and say bi-monthly or whatever the case may be? I think all of us agree, because that's how this whole amendment started,
Mhm.
is that we wanted to see more from our sheriff's department as far as, information about what they're doing outside of the little report that we get that says so-and-so's on duty, it was sunny outside, and the other one or two sentences that might be underneath that thing. It's a weather report on a daily basis is
Yeah,
basically what we
that's-
get,
That's true.
but
Well, so I'm certainly willing to go along with majority in this case. I wasn't for the original contract. And some of you may remember that I, in fact, voted against it because I felt that we were giving up a responsibility and an authority that we shouldn't have. But we're there, we've already crossed that hurdle, we've,
yeah.
put our hands in the stocks and we're there. But now, this, I think, is a meaningful addition that would provide information for us and the townspeople that we serve.
So I'm gonna make this question easy because I think outside of you, we've kind of heard everybody's opinion. So let's hear your opinion on this whole thing, and then we're gonna cut to the chase here.
Well, quarterly would be once every sixth meeting. Bi-monthly would be once every fourth meeting. So they, I would like the information, but I don't mind holding off these, I don't even mind quarterly, really, as long as it's in depth,
Yeah.
Okay.
that's just my.
So here's my 2 cents on it. I don't like the way his recommendation is worded. I think it's great that an officer will come and meet with us. I appreciate that aspect. I would like to see a written report with that officer that he
Yeah.
can leave with us. And
Mhm.
his reword kind of leaves it open to not have to do that. It's a discussion, and here's the numbers that, we have, and he doesn't really have to leave us anything behind. I think that's crucial for us to have.
Could we ask if we get a minimum on a quarterly basis with a written report? And then if we want it more often, we just set a minimum.
So here's a compromise. Tell me what you think. If we take this as it's written here, as Sheriff Clark has written, and we ask for a quarterly written report from the Sheriff's Department, and we ask for a every 2-month stop-in with, in this case, probably be Chris Norton on a regular basis, to kind of give us an overview of what the Sheriff's Department's doing. He doesn't necessarily have to give us a report, that every 2 months, outside of verbal. He doesn't even have to give us a written, but gives us some kind of update of what's going on, what he's been seeing, because to your point, Steve, we really don't know unless you're hooked into, their Facebook page and you read the newspaper and all those kind of things. You really don't know what crime is happening in Vernon on a regular basis, unless you really pay attention to that stuff. And there's all kinds of things that we don't know about that are just not significant enough to be reported in the newspaper or on Facebook or whatever the case may be, that you may miss anyway, that we can hear from Chris or whomever he sends down to represent every 2 months when he stops in. So if we had a 2-month stop-in with Chris every 2 months, and then that quarterly report, which means every other time he comes to see us, he brings that quarterly written report with him. Does that kind of meet a middle ground with everybody and seem acceptable?
Yeah, and I personally, if going with a quarterly written report, I wouldn't have a problem with them just coming down quarterly,
Okay.
going through it. That the problem with them coming down every 2 months would be, how do you? I mean, it ends up being a scheduling thing. It's kind of a little weird.
Sure.
We got two.
I suggested the monthly thing because I think we're in arrears there, but certainly quarterly is better than nothing.
Yeah.
It's better than what we've got right now.
Yeah,
An improvement.
I agree.
But are we talking about the frequency of reporting, or, we're talking about monthly versus quarterly, but I think essentially asking for performance measures in a report is different than just having a list of incidences.
We already have the list of incidences. If
Right,
I
correct.
was real happy with that, I wouldn't have said anything.
Right.
My
There's no
feeling
performance
is,
measures.
there is no performance measures currently, and I hope that we're gonna be able to see some. Now,
Well, I
he
think
doesn't talk about that in his response, so
I
I'm
think he
hoping-
just calls it something different. We're calling it performance measures,
Mhm.
including but not limited to clearance rates, response times, crime rates, blah, blah, blah. He says, outcomes of criminal complaints, arrests, open, closed,
Right.
blah, blah, blah.
So that's not the same thing? Getting
It-
outcomes as
It
not
is
the
and it
same
isn't.
as
It can be.
performance?
There may also be additional information that, of a trending nature. For instance, wouldn't it be nice for us to know if the crime rate in Vernon is increasing while the communities around us is decreasing? Or are there more drug activities here in Vernon than there are in the rest of Wyndham County? To me, that would be something that I would think the citizenry here and probably the select board should be on top of.
Okay. So
That's all I would say.
I do like the way we have it written versus how he has it written as far as what the report shall read. So if we switch up our monthly to quarterly, essentially, and leave our wording the same, does that make sense to
I
everybody?
would be delighted with that as a
mean,
compromise.
So the office shall report to the town on a quarterly basis, setting forth the police activities conducted throughout the previous month. Additionally, the office shall report performance measures, including but not limited to clearance rates, response times, crime rates compared to previous periods, and/or other indicators of successful policing in the community.
Can I just mention something?
Sure.
They did, Sheriff Clark did mention that they don't track response time.
Okay. That's
Really?
unfortunate.
Oh, that is so unfortunate.
So,
Okay. I'm probably gonna get picked up on what. I should shut my mouth and just enjoy my
so
food.
if we remove response times, if they're not willing to share that anyway, then,
Do
Yeah.
they not record it, or they just don't want to share it? Or
It
you
depends
don't
on
know.
what the call comes in for, so if it comes in for, registration check or a VIN number check, obviously they're not tracking response times. as
The
opposed
reason
to
I
an
mentioned
emergency
response
call.
time is one of the things that I have been hit with, or not hit, but it's my job to take townspeople's complaints.
Sure.
And one of the things they've expressed frequently is response time concerns, all right? When someone's sitting in the brook upside down in their car for 2.5 hours, and they wanna know what the devil, where the sheriff's department is, and, that's the kind of thing I'm asked about. So response times to me seem like a thing that they do keep track of, and that, whatever. If they don't keep track of it, well,
that's one of the biggest complaints I continually receive as
of
well.
course it is. And so if they don't have it, obviously we can't get blood out of a stone or a golden egg out of the goose, but anyway, when they don't have it, we have to live with what we've got, right? If we
Okay.
want that kind of thing, we have to bring our own police department back. And I'm not voting for that yet either, so.
It's probably the people that have some concerns about response time, they have a forum at the annual town meeting to express those concerns when
That's correct.
this article comes up.
Well, they do, and they have, and that's why they went for the more costly version, I guess, hoping response times would be faster, perhaps.
This is only
But we
one
will never
person
know
on
whether
at
they're
a time.
better or not, because we don't keep track of it.
No.
Right,
So
so removing,
I think what you proposed is
okay.
suitable.
So if we can amend our amendment to say quarterly to agree with his, leave our wording the same, but removing response times because they're not willing to share that information anyway.
This contract is due is like right now, isn't it? It's end of this month,
Yeah.
yeah.
So hopefully he'll be amenable to what we
Yes.
have to do, and we
And we
can
have
all move
another
on with
meeting
our
this
lives.
month too, in case
Yes.
something comes up we have to work with there.
Absolutely. Everybody happy? We don't need a motion because we gotta make sure that the amendment works for all parties involved before we can do anything anyway. So, I'm happy, you're happy, everybody's happy.
Yes, yes.
All right, right to farm signs. We had gotten a quote for some little metal signs. I think it was 50 or 75 bucks a piece. 50 bucks a piece. That would go right underneath our town of Vernon signs. Very similar to the signs that you see in Guild. As a right to farm community, we passed that last meeting, I think, or we didn't pass it, we made the statement that we are a right to farm community. So, here is option number 2 that we all asked for, is to utilize the current sign right now. And this would be painted letters over top of the sign, and it will say a right to farm community over top of our current sign. Cost is $275.50 per sign, I believe. So, obviously a lot more costly, probably more aesthetically pleasing than a little metal sign screwed underneath the wooden sign that we have right now. What does everybody think?
Where would the money come from?
That's a really good question. I don't know. That's something that we're gonna have to find out from our treasurer. Unless Michelle has any ideas.
Could have gotten you the $50 a sign. This is a little.
I would have donated your 50 bucks a sign, but this is a little out of my league. $275 a piece.
Well, there's money left in the office supply budget, but I don't know if this technically
Doesn't really
falls
fall in
under
office supply.
supply. This might be pushing that line item.
Yeah, that doesn't work. So, I hate to do this to everybody, but I think we're gonna table this to the next meeting to see if we can pull together the money. Let's just do a consensus. Everybody's happy with this versus the little metal signs? Yes?
It's more aesthetic, of course it's more costly, but there's two of them.
Yep.
Now you have to keep replacing the middle ones. Yeah, and this person we contract with to maintain
He takes care of
these
our sign
signs,
anyway. This
So that'll
is
get-
the sign that he
right.
built for the town of Vernon, so.
So he'll be
All right.
taking care of that.
So that's what we wanna do. Let's get together with Cindy and find the money and put this to bed so I don't have to rewrite the farm signs on the agenda anymore. The dog ordinance,
Yes.
here we are. And I believe we have a few people that came to speak regarding the dog ordinance.
Oh, good.
So if you'd like to come up and join us, or if you'd like to just come right here and give us a,
To listen what you're talking about.
you're just, okay, that's fine with me. Our changes are highlighted, yes, no?
Yes, they're in red, actually.
The changes are in italics,
Okay.
additions. My notes are in red capital.
Okay. Do we have an additional copy of this kicking around somewhere? Can you give that to those two folks right there?
I have a question. This comment before, there's some, well, there were some, I don't know if there still are, who used to give their dogs their own rabies shots. And if they brought in the type of serum that was used, that was on the approved list, it was accepted. So, my question is, on page 3, excuse me, would we make an allowance for that or not?
I was wondering you could give your own dog
Well,
rabies.
some of the farmers did.
Farmers? What, dog farmers?
No. They had access to the serum.
I have some in my refrigerator right now.
Okay.
And the tags.
You have the tags too?
Oh, they send the tags with it.
Well,
So,
I don't know, I guess people do give their own dogs shots.
Oh. Oh, that's for the horses.
I'm not gonna try to give my little beast a shot, she'll bite me.
right here.
We give it out to cows,
Oh, yeah.
pasture,
Rabies,
but we don't have tags for them.
No, well, yeah,
Well-
but they're not required.
Maybe we could.
Because you want us to add
You wanna
that?
call
Oh,
it?
yeah, yeah.
No.
If they're on pasture.
Then on the bottom of page 3,
For rabies, you kill a
D,
cow, too.
10 PM, it should be Ann's.
Sandy, could you let us know what changes you're making or
I
what
do.
are proposed?
Well, I'm just, one's a spelling, N-A-D instead of A-N-D,
Oh,
typo.
I can go through, if it would help you, I can quickly go through this. I'll get it, I mean,
I
quickly.
mean, I don't
is
care about
rel-
spelling, but I
Well,
mean,
Yeah.
quickly is relative.
Yeah.
yeah.
You want me to do
Check
that?
the next-
Or do you want to just,
Yeah.
whatever? I mean, there's a lot here.
Yeah.
You know, dealing with 8 pages, and we've made changes on each of the pages, but I think that, you know, some of them are
Well,
in
big
fact
changes.
spelling. Yes.
Not little.
No, you haven't made any changes.
Oh, we
This
have
is what I did.
Yes,
So you have not made any changes?
yes, you're right.
Oh, okay. So-
We haven't
This
made
is-
any changes, we have not
First.
accepted a dog ordinance at this point of any sort. We're running off the one that we've had for
Long time.
20 years,
Okay.
currently.
What we're really interested in, like dogs that are kind of vicious, we've got some up there. It's in the road when nobody, they holler and yell, and the people don't even come out of the houses.
Yep.
And they, in fact, her dog got attacked by one of the dogs up there, it was loose. I mean, if they're gonna be out on the road, they should be on a leash or under control completely.
Well, that,
I mean, I'm not for a leash law, but you gotta control, yeah. You gotta control these dogs that come up and try to bite you.
Yep.
And they do try to bite you.
I like to be able to walk my little dog up and on our road comfortably and I like to walk myself, and sometimes I don't feel safe. There are times when I think maybe that dog will be out, I hear him barking, so I turn around and have to come back, and
And Kelly, your dog got attacked, but
I thought
came
there
right down
was a
through the
leash
woods.
law. There
There
is,
is.
yeah, there is a leash law.
there is a leash law?
Yes, there is.
No, there isn't, according to the police department,
Wait a
the
minute.
sheriff's
It's a
department,
dog.
said there's no leash law in town, there's just an ordinance.
There's just an ordinance.
Correct.
It's
My,
ordinance, yeah.
my friend and I were screaming out up on, what's the name of that? Popular Lane. And we were really, the whole neighborhood probably could hear us, and they never came out. So, my friend called the sheriff's department, they did come out, and they said, the sheriff went in and talked to the people, and they said the dog was one that they used to go around for people to, what do I say, service dog, like, yeah, to go in hospitals. And it was just a nervous dog. The sheriff, the deputy said he couldn't pat it because it was nervous. Well, I understand a nervous dog can be a very dangerous dog, and I felt like I was in danger.
Yeah, if I might, Josh. Our current ordinance, which I have a copy of here, was enacted March 20th, 2006. And on page 4 of that ordinance, it says, running at large. No domestic pet or domestic animal shall be permitted to run at large. Run at large means without control. Okay, that's section 6. And then it goes into a great deal of discussion here on vicious domestic pets and so forth. In section 10, it talks about a vicious domestic pet or domestic animal as determined by the animal control officers hereof declared to be a public nuisance. The owner or keeper of such domestic pet or domestic animal shall keep it confined in a secure enclosure on a chain or leash at all times. So the police officer told you that there was no leash law?
He said.
There's
nothing.
there's an ordinance, but
Well,
there's no, but he has
He
to
said
have
there's no
a,
leash law,
there's no leash.
An
John
ordinance
Buscemi.
is a
and that was
law.
this sheriff's department.
Right?
No, but what he said is,
I don't know.
what he said is, they should be under control, you know, that's what he did say, to be honest, that's what he said.
Yeah.
Right.
But he said the dog was not vicious, but nervous. Well, I'm nervous too.
He'd come out with his hair stand up on his back, and he really.
Growl at you.
Isn't there, I
He
don't
does
know,
it
have a
to all of
copy of the current
Doesn't
ordinance.
he?
Is there a potentially, oh, sorry. Isn't there a potentially dangerous part
Yes.
of
Yes,
this
of course.
ordinance? Where is it?
It's,
Page 5.
I would say page 5, has it at the top, section 10.
Are we supposed to call him?
Mark only gets involved if somebody gets bit.
Because he's out of town, so.
Yes.
How about if the dog gets bit?
I don't know.
I'd call him.
Yeah. Yeah, I would approach that with Mark.
Because the owner of the dog that bit your dog is liable for the expenses.
That's right. That's very true.
There gotta be more teeth in the ordinance somehow.
Well,
That's-
there's
that's
actually
what we're
plenty
working
of
on.
teeth in this ordinance, it just needs to be enforced, that's all. It's easier to stop somebody with a radar gun than it is to deal with
Maybe it's time to have a new dog officer again.
Do we designate something or someone as an animal control?
It's not, I wouldn't call this the smoothest written ordinance, on the other hand, it's intended. It's supposed to smooth it up.
Clarify.
I like the changes very much. I'd like to see it been implemented. I didn't see anything. Okay, the rabbits, that was a little interesting.
Would you like me to review for the audience what the changes, what the changes are?
That is the state definition.
I know it is.
Yes, there's rabbits. And
I don't
deer
have
are the
any.
news.
The other one is not a big question at this point.
You know,
Yeah.
I like what was presented. I would like to see it written as presented and distributed. Have it, for people to look at and then come in and readdress it.
In the same format.
Without your red marks, just
Oh, I-
take all the notes out
As an ordinance.
as an ordinance.
Oh, I
And
see.
then have people come in and pick it up at the town office or put it on the website. This is a proposed town ordinance before, and let them give us their input before we go through the whole process of accepting it. And then they have 45 days and stuff after too.
Absolutely.
Because
didn't
I
know if
think
you
this is
wanted
extremely
to
well
add
written.
anything in here before
Well,
we
just
did that.
maybe event instead of even.
Oh,
And just the dog. But
Are we really gonna go through all the typos? You hate me, don't you? Do you know my eyes were crossing by the time I
I
was
know,
on?
I
can't
did
believe
mine in
it.
blue, so I thought I'd just give it to you.
Jeff saw me with the law books all over right now.
So we're happy, as a select board, let's get a consensus here, we're happy with the ordinance that's presented here, as it is,
And it was based on,
and it was based on the VLCT's model
This
for dog
essentially
ordinance.
it has all of our stuff and all of the VLCT
Yeah.
stuff.
And it references VSA where appropriate,
Yes.
which is important.
One question on section 12, page 7. It says the carcass of any dead pet which has been exposed to rabies shall, upon demand, be surrendered to the health officer, who shall direct the disposition of any animal found to be rabid. No person shall fail to surrender any pet for quarantine or destruction when demand is made thereof by the constable or chief of police. And then, should we not put enforcement officer in there, since enforcement
Correct.
officer has been used before?
Yeah.
And there's also the decision of who do you want the enforcement officer to be. So in the beginning,
It's the sheriff's
you need to define, so it could be the constable, police officer, sheriff, deputy, you could name the animal control officer, the health officer, or all of the
Is
above.
there something in our sheriff's department contract that says they are not going to cover?
They are our animal
They are,
control.
okay, all right. So it does actually specifically say that.
I like what you said, or any other person designated as an enforcement officer by the select board. So this year, we may have the sheriff's department.
Yes, it is
Next year, we may
specifically.
have the health officer.
Or the town constable,
Or the town constable.
which used to do it.
Mhm. So, but by the way you have it in here, it's whoever's designated by the select board.
I think promulgating this so that everyone has a copy, you could put it on the town website. for that
Yeah, we
matter.
can put it on the unofficial website, we
Right.
can put it out on the Vernon Facebook page, so
Sure.
everybody has a chance to look at it. Now that we're
Right.
happy with it, with the exception of a few typos. And then, no, it's totally fine, we need to see that stuff.
So it
So-
will be published so people will see it.
Yes, sir,
Oh,
we're gonna publish it before we pass it, so everybody can take a look at it and
Michelle?
understand what we're doing before it's done.
Right. And probably also, given our past history, getting some sort of a hearing kind of thing would be a good idea.
Yeah, we have to do that afterwards anyway,
Well, hopefully we can get.
I know afterwards, but these days I would rather it before.
before and after.
Yes, whenever.
Now, who do you report it to then? Do you report it to the sheriff's department or?
Once the ordinance is in place, or if there's any violation of the current ordinance between now and the institution of the new ordinance, it would be the sheriff's department. They are our animal control officers.
Right.
They are supposed to help.
But bites and stuff like that go to Mark
I don't
Snow,
think you needed that comment.
The health officer.
who's our health officer.
That's in on page 5 of the current ordinance under section 11B.
Correct. Okay. Make sense to everybody?
Yes.
So we'll get this-
Sounds good if it works.
Absolutely.
It does.
Well, these are always the bumpy
Yeah.
ride
The
because.
the only thing that we can do as a select board is put it on paper and then require those that are supposed to enforce it to enforce it. that's what we can do.
But you don't have to have a permit to carry a sidearm either, so. You could shoot.
Very true, Bob, very true.
Or a squirt gun with it.
I will not.
Shouldn't have said that on camera.
Yeah, I know. I don't condone the shooting of animals, but you have every right to carry a sidearm in the state of Vermont. So, we will flip back up to our final agenda item, which is the fire department personnel. And this will be an executive session.
Okay, Mr. Chairman, I move that we go into executive session with our town administrator on the appointment or employment or evaluation of public officer and employee, 1 VSA 3133A3.
All those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? We went into executive session at 7:52 PM, out at 10 PM, no action was taken. Public participation, there is no public. So, correspondence, please.
You got everything, I gave you a copy of the last letter that I sent out. The only other correspondence, which was part of my notes, is that we did receive an email from this attorney, James Barlow, who is offering, interestingly enough, open meeting law training for free to municipalities. And apparently Guilford is, I just got this today, Guilford's taking advantage of it. If you'd like, I'll give them a call and see how it went. It was open meeting law and Public Records Act.
He doesn't charge us?
It says free of charge.
He comes to us, or? we
Yep,
go?
he will come here to town. I know a couple of committees that could probably use this training.
Yes.
So if you'd like, I'll reach out to Guilford
Yes.
and see how it went, and see if they would recommend having him. He's saying,
He's very good.
do you know him? Yeah. He had a lot of accolades on his website, but that's all I know.
It's Jim.
Yep, yeah. So that's really the only other,
The planning commission would benefit from
Um,
that, so.
the only other correspondence that I have.
Okay. Media,
Shall we?
do you have anything for us, BCTV? Of course not. Town administrator report, please.
The manager report, Gordon Christensen, our financial advisor, has come up with some recommendations for what we could do with some of our funds. Cindy has only received those recommendations this morning,
Yeah, I got a phone call this
and
afternoon.
he really wanted to have us do something tonight. Cindy is not ready to make a recommendation one way or another. She's just got them in her hand.
Well, she needs to be.
So she will come back to the next select board meeting after talking to the cemetery committee, and y'all can talk about it then, and you'll have all that information.
Gordy called me this afternoon regarding this, and it's pretty straightforward. It's, putting money that's sitting in a savings account that makes no interest right now, and taking part of that money and putting it into a CD for a few months or a year or whatever the case may be that we don't need. And it's fairly simple stuff from what he's telling me. I've yet to see the document, but what he was telling me makes sense. So after Cindy looks at it and we look at it, we'll go from there.
And Cindy said she really needs to determine with the cemetery committee how much she needs on hand, because he kind of wanted to take the whole savings and just leave a little $1,000.
Yeah.
So for operating through the summer, that might not be enough, so Cindy needs to really vet through all of that first.
Yep.
Okay, the lister's office has filed for an extension to file a grand list. They are close to making the deadline, but not quite. But they do need permission from the select board to do that, so
So
if
moved.
you agree to do that.
How long of an extension do they need?
This is a 30-day request, but she's confident she'll be done by next week at the latest. It's very close. I think it was due Monday, so.
Okay. We got a motion. Somebody want to second it?
Second.
Motion and second to offer the listers their extension. Do we have any discussion? Okay. All those in favor of offering the extension to the listers, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Those
Aye.
opposed? The listers have their extension.
Gina, are you reading that? Is there
Yes.
something there?
No, I was just seeing some dates. They still need the grand list book, and 411 must still be transmitted to the director on or before August 15th. So they get an extension, but they still have this August 15th date, which I think they have to, or you can't set the rate, right?
Oh, no, I'm sure.
Yes. I'm not going first.
And I noticed that on all of our warrants, nobody signs that top line.
I just go in order,
Spreadsheet.
Yeah.
even if it's upward from Steve.
Should ask Carol the next time.
I sign like
Just
this.
one thing.
Do you really?
Yeah, I don't ever sign the top one.
Right.
Just a regular.
I remember, right, I remember.
I will in this one, just because we're talking about it.
You could sort stuff. I thought
And the
that
other
Get the print.
thing I need you to sign is the contract for the cleaning services.
Oh, yes, that starts up here shortly. Are we in good shape for all that, or everything's on target now?
We are.
Yes.
Thought we would
I don't think we need to make a motion on that, it's the contract you've already.
Yeah, we just have to sign it.
Moved to approve it. Okay, and the last thing, there's two things to sign on there, 2 pages. The last thing is that the notice of the public hearing for the planning commission to, discuss the amendments, proposed amendments to the town plan should be published in the paper on Friday. So we, in speaking with Martin, the decision was to go with 2 separate notifications in the paper, just to be very clear about which meetings we're talking about, because the select board will also have to have a public hearing on the proposed amendments. And if everybody's amenable for 6 PM on August 1st, we'll make sure to get that publication done within the 30-day deadline.
And August 1st is our regular meeting, so we would just be starting early.
So it'll just be early.
Okay.
And that's all I have for this.
Okay. Next regular meeting, June 20th at 6:30. And that is it. We are adjourned.